But we are in a massive shift on this planet, thank goodness. And humanity is awakening, thank goodness. And we are curious and wanting more, needing more. There's a hunger to tap into the deeper places in ourselves, the true essence of ourselves. And this is where our work can really shine, and really support and really provide a tremendous amount of healing and insights.
Her name is Stephanie Banks, and she is a highly sought after intuitive channel, mentor, and guide who helps people connect on the soul level. She channels from the perspective of any soul currently on the planet, souls on the other side, purely non-physical beings such as spirit guides, as well as trees, animals, and Gaia. Connection and communication are the common themes in all of Stephanie's professional endeavors as a speech-language pathologist, birth doula, lactation consultant, infant massage instructor, and intuitive channel. When her mother's dementia made verbal communication impossible, Stephanie found ways to communicate with her mother's soul. This was the beginning of her channeling journey. As a conscious channel, Stephanie is both a channel to receive the messages as well as a guide to provide depth and context for the information coming through. She uses her keen sense of humor, love, and compassion to join her clients in their spiritual experience. Stephanie also mentors clients in discerning their own inner voice for wisdom, enhancing their confidence and self-trust, improving their relationships, clarifying their soul's purpose, and finding their laughter and joy. She's the author of the best-selling Joining Joanie, Staying Connected to All Your Loved Ones Through Dementia and Beyond. Stephanie is currently completing her second book about her spiritual journey. In her TEDx talk, I Am an Intuitive Channel, she shares her unexpected experience with channeling and invites others to discover their own intuitive gifts. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you so much, Teresa. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Well, I'm happy and enthusiastic to have you here today, and I'd love for you to share with me and my listeners what makes you enthusiastic about being a channel.
What doesn't, actually? I would say the thing that is so thrilling to me about being a channel is knowing that regardless of what's going on in my day at any given moment, there's more, so much more access to love, more access to divine energy, more access to miracles. And that's what spirit is for me. That's what channeling is for me. And that's what keeps me really enthusiastic about continuing to stay awake to that, aware around that, and tuning into it.
So in your bio, it mentioned that your channeling, you really connected with your mom's soul when she had dementia. So is that really when your channeling started?
It is. I mean, as a child, I was always deeply connected to animals and to trees. And I just thought everybody had conversations with animals and trees. But I didn't call it channeling, and I didn't know anything about channeling. When my mom was diagnosed with dementia, which she got as a younger person in her 60s, it occurred actually in her 50s. Our ability to communicate using traditional methods of just verbal communication was starting to break apart. And I needed something else because I knew that she would continue to deteriorate. And I didn't want to be left with this big gap in this big distance with my mother. So it really did open my eyes to what's possible when we communicate on the soul level, and totally changed my life forever.
Mm-hmm. And that's what your book is about, and guiding people down that avenue, correct? Because there's a lot of people these days that have a dementia, Alzheimer's, and ways they disconnect from people and they cannot talk and communicate.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what Joining Joanie is about. It is a mouthful. I perhaps could have come up with a different name, but my mom's name is Joanie, and it's about joining your loved one wherever they're at and whatever their reality is. We oftentimes get sidetracked by thinking we have to reorient someone to reality, and what a just nonsensical pursuit that is. You just end up disconnected and frustrated, and the person feels oftentimes embarrassed or humiliated. So I really encourage people, no matter what your loved one is going through, it doesn't have to be dementia. It could be in a parenting relationship. Why can't we join our children, our loved ones, in their reality and show curiosity around that, and be in that energy? It's so much more fun, so much more rewarding.
So there's a lot of people these days who are channels or channeling energy or channeling beings. So what exactly are you channeling?
I'm channeling whatever I'm asked to channel.
Hmm.
So, and that's the way I operate. Some people will say, will tell someone what's coming through, but the way I prefer to work is my clients will request, I would like to hear from my grandmother, or I would like to hear from my higher self, or I would like to hear from my cat Fluffy. And that's the energy that I tune into. So it's really calling forward the energies that are being requested. And very, very, very rarely does that energy not present. But if it doesn't, then I get sort of a replacement for it. So a guide on behalf of that energy. But most of the time, it's just the specific soul or being that we're calling in.
Love it. And I think that's important too with each individual client because they have different needs and different things that they really are prepared at that moment to listen to and to hear and to, receive from you. So that's really important.
Yeah, yeah.
And what I love too, Stephanie, is on your website, you have a phrase that says discerning your truth from the external noise and influence.
Mm.
And I want to talk a little bit about that because in today's world, and it's getting more and more with technology and all that's going on, is that there's a lot of external noise. So it's really listening into that truth. So I'd like you to share a little bit about how you discovered this discernment for yourself and how you work with clients.
Yeah, it's essential for us to find what works for us in terms of settling our nervous systems and our frenetic thoughts. And for a lot of people, that can be meditation. And a lot of people misunderstand meditation. They think that it means sitting in just complete blankness. And if you can achieve that, wonderful, but I have not. So, right.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
it's really just showing up. And I find that radical self care is also just as essential as my meditation time. And that type of self care is different for each of us. We all have things that nourish our spirits. And for me, it's the natural world, it's animals, it's time moving my body, different forms of movement. So it might be yoga, it might be going for a run or a hike. Um, and food. I happen to love this planet for its
Mhm.
food. I think it's probably the best planet to be on if you like food. I don't know of any others. And so, just the things that bring us joy and connection and that high vibration, that's where we can best meet with the spirit energy, is in the higher frequencies of love and humor, excitement, levity, lightheartedness. So I encourage people that's the prescription I think that's necessary, is take exquisite care of yourself, keep finding and doing the things that bring you joy, and you are guaranteed to feel your center, your spirit, your soul within that.
And I love what you said too, and some of the writings you wrote back to me is that how your spirit guides have so much humor and bring so much love into your life, and so that's really important too because some people are like, "What? What's that all about?" Well, it's about really that joy and that love of spirit.
Yes, and they're so good at reminding me and my clients to not take ourselves so personally. This is where we lose our footing and our grounding, when we become super linear and sort of put blinders on and don't see
Mhm.
all of the magic that's happening around us all the time.
Mhm.
So they're good at that. They kind of poke fun with me all the time. They're never mean spirited. It's always with joy and exciting energy. They're thrilled to be in communication with us, our spirit guides. I don't believe they just swoop in and do things for us. It's a dynamic, it's a conversation. And when you enter humor into the equation, it's even better.
It's a teamwork, right?
Yes. Yes.
From day dot, like
Yeah.
you come in. I believe that we have contracted with them on the other side before we come in. We've got a team we work with our whole life, and so they're here to love back and support us.
Yeah.
So how can we not love that, right, Stephanie? Love.
Absolutely. I know that I'm enthusiastic about that.
I know, me too, in a big way. And I love what you also wrote me about how you're surprised at some of the people now that are coming up to you about spiritual communication.
Mm.
That really kind of surprised. And I'm the same thing. Like people will say things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I guess it's our echo or it's our vibration or obviously what we're sharing in the world too. But that ability that people just, I mean, unusual ones will come up now and go, hey, how about this? And what can you tell me about that? And so you find that also with clients too, right?
Yeah, some people are surprised to learn that I work with doctors, physicians, I work with attorneys, I work with all types of people that you wouldn't necessarily think of as being open to spiritual communication. But we are in a massive shift on this planet, thank goodness. And humanity is awakening, thank goodness. And we are curious and wanting more, needing more. There's a hunger to tap into the deeper places in ourselves, the true essence of ourselves. And this is where our work can really shine, and really support and really provide a tremendous amount of healing and insight.
Mhm. And so, even though you do this for other people, do you often share with people how they can do it for themselves?
Yes, yes. That's my favorite thing to do, actually, besides channeling, is teaching others how to channel, because I do believe we're all channels. I channel from the place of intuition. That's our sixth sense. And we all are born with that. And that doesn't mean everybody's interested in growing or cultivating that. But if you are, then you can learn to channel your channel. There's so many forms of channeling: art and dance and music and all sorts of different ways. So connecting to divine energy is how I define channeling, and we can all do it.
And I found too that, and it's not complex. Like, it's right here, right, Stephanie? Like, we are these energy beings. It's right here.
It is. And a lot of people are surprised to hear that it comes through the space of imagination, because in our culture, we've been taught that if we're imagining it, it's somehow not real. And yet you can look around your home right now, and every object in that home has been first imagined before it was created. Everything that's ever been created was first imagined. So why we are denigrating and diminishing our imagination as though it's somehow less than, I have no idea how that came about.
Yeah, I don't either, because it's like I said, it's so right here. And it's interesting because I was going to do another podcast with myself about, how we're all psychic. Like, no matter what people say, oh, I'm not psychic. No, you are psychic, but it's tuning in that intuition. And so I'd like you to share like one thing of how you, share with people about tuning into their own intuition.
Yeah, like a practice for
Yeah.
them, you mean? Yeah. So I'd go back to that list of radical self-care items. So I definitely encourage everybody to create the list, because without it, you're sort of floating about and asking yourself, well, what do I want to do right now? And then your left hemisphere pipes in with, well, you really need to do the dishes, or you really need to go feed the dogs. And so before you get in that entanglement, create your list of at least 25 things that bring you joy and lightness, and then do at least one of those things every day. That is sort of the calibration you want to use to bring your energy into a different place. It's sort of like if you are working a really difficult, challenging job and you're spending many hours doing it. Are you going to expect yourself to leave at the end of your workday and feel joyful and light? No, you're going to need to have some sort of a transition. So this radical self-care is that transition. And dancing, I find to be absolutely essential to shifting the energy, because we carry a lot and we absorb a lot in our physical bodies. And dance can really help us to release that, come back into flow, and remember what a blessing it is to be alive, to have breath, to have movement, to have health.
And moving that body.
Yes.
And I think also from today's world, where there's so many at home entrepreneurs that are out of the workplace or at home. And I know just the other day I was talking to someone about how do I disconnect when I drive home? Like how I used to go to 9 to 5 job, and then I come, now I don't. So how do I disconnect from my business now to, being like in the rest of the evening? And so that's a big thing with, being the self-care, the going inward, as well as with your intuition, as well as with all of us who are at home now being entrepreneurs.
Yes, absolutely.
And I know that you have a career as a speech pathologist. So tell me how that moved into working with your channeling and understanding about intuition, because that seems pretty cool that, a speech pathologist about speech and then working with that ability to channel.
Yeah, well, and just to be clear, it was a 21-year career. I loved it. I'm no longer doing it. I don't miss it, but I did love it. So I just want to say that, because being a speech pathologist was phenomenal. And I would say that I started to notice more and more as I was working in hospitals that I was receiving soulful communication from my patients. And there are some ways you can incorporate that just in terms of more deeply connecting with my patients, having deeper conversations, also meeting them where they're at instead of having everything be so strictly linear or clinical, because these are humans and we are complex and they have families and people who love them. And there's just so many beautiful dynamics to tune into. And the medical model can be tricky. There's not a lot of space in it usually for that type of connection. So I found ways to connect in that way, and I would sometimes stand outside a patient's door and just quickly talk to my guides, ask for support, bring in angels, whatever was meaningful to me and supportive to me, to help guide me in the treatment and the care of that patient.
Mm-hmm. That's really important because as each in a person's individual, and having that ability to connect with your own guidance and then to work with the people outside of you. Because I think that's an important thing for me and my guides is like, it's about me and my guidance first, and then I can work with those outside of me.
Yes,
You found
exactly.
that, you
And
found
then
that.
we're all really connected. So
We are. Oh my gosh. That's the thing too, Stephanie. It's like, the positive, the negative, anything, we're all connected energetically. So it's learning how to work with what we have, really our God given, talent and skills and our energy, right?
yes.
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 Well, Stephanie, it's been so fun having you on today and sharing about channeling and about ways that people can really tap into their intuition. So I'd like also, before we go, to tap into and share a little bit about what your offerings are and how people can connect with you.
So my website is soulinsight.com, and
Mhm.
I put all of my workshops on there, my channeling classes. I just recently finished a course where I was teaching work with the pendulum. That's how I learned to channel,
Mhm.
and it's not for the faint-hearted. It requires a lot of focus and attention, but it can be a super fun tool, and I like to teach from that perspective. Everything is on the website, soulinsight.com, and you can also schedule private sessions on there as well.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much again for coming on and sharing today, Stephanie. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you too, Teresa.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Enthusiastically Spiritual. And again, a huge thanks for Stephanie for coming on today, sharing her love of channeling, of assisting those that are in need of working with their intuition and understanding messages that come from spirit. It's a wonderful, wonderful service in the world. And I will have all of information about her and how to connect with her in the show notes. So please make sure, if you've not subscribed, you hit subscribe. Please like. Please also comment how you like this episode, and make sure, if you like it, share it with a friend. Also, if there was something that came to your mind during this episode, you have got a question, please feel free to go to Pod Inbox, Enthusiastically Spiritual, and it'll also be in the show notes. And you can leave me a message, and I'll be happy to reply back or give you some insights about something that may have popped into your mind as you were listening to this episode, or any other questions you might have for me. So until next week, please remember that life is too short to not be enthusiastic about your unique journey.